So, what if we could start from scratch? I mean, totally rethink our monetary system from the ground up, not based on politics or promises, but on actual real-world value. Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're going to explore a fascinating proposal for how to do just that, and it all starts with a pretty bold take on the system we use every single day.
Wow, okay. That's a pretty heavy statement to kick things off, right? This is the core idea we're unpacking. It basically says our current system isn't just having a bad run, it's fundamentally broken. And that forces us to ask a really important question. If what we have is so flawed, what would an honest system even look like? This isn't just some academic thought experiment, it's about the very essence of value in our lives.
Okay, so before we can start drawing up blueprints for something new, we have to get super clear on what's broken with the old model. The very first step in designing a better system is to really diagnose the root problems we're trying to solve.
At the very heart of the critique is this idea of hidden taxation. You know, that feeling, right? When you realize the money in your bank account just doesn't buy as much as it did last year? Well, the argument here is that this isn't an accident. It's not a bug. It's a feature of a system where new money can be created from nothing, quietly watering down the value of every dollar you've worked for.
And this is where it gets really real. This view frames government debt not as some abstract number on a screen, but as a literal scoreboard, a measure of just how much value has been siphoned away from regular people through that hidden tax of inflation. So the big question becomes, how do you even begin to build a system that can't do that?
All right, this brings us to the fun part, the design challenge. If we were the architects, what would our guiding principles be? What does honest money actually look like in practice? Let's lay out the non-negotiables for our new system.
And here they are. These are the 5 pillars. Each one is a direct response to a problem with the current system. You can't just print more of it. There's no sneaky inflation tax. And maybe most importantly, it has to be fully transparent, so everyone knows the rules and can see what's going on. These goals are going to set the stage for the whole architecture.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this proposed system. This is where we see a huge shift in thinking. Instead of money being created by some central power and then injected into the economy, this model flips that on its head. Money should come from the economy itself.
And this is where it gets really cool. The core engine is something called a mutual credit ledger. The easiest way to think about it is like a massive, community-wide IOU system. See, in this model, money isn't a thing that already exists. It's literally created in the moment that one person promises to deliver goods or services to another.
But wait, how do you measure anything in a system of IOUs? Well, the proposal introduces what it calls a real value unit, or RVU. Now, instead of being tied to, say, gold or just a government promise, its value is defined by a basket of real-world stuff. You know, things like a certain amount of food, energy, or housing. The whole point is to create a stable yardstick that's anchored to the real economy.
So, how is this money actually born? It's a pretty straightforward 4-step dance. Step 1, a producer, say a farmer, with a ton of apples, issues an invoice. Step 2, the buyer, a baker who needs those apples, accepts it. That accepted invoice, that promise to pay, just became a tradable IOU. And boom, the system records it. The farmer gets a positive balance, and the baker gets a negative balance. Money was just created.
And this slide just puts it all side by side. The difference is night and day, isn't it? On one side, you've got money that's issued from the top down, and its value can be diluted anytime someone decides to print more. On the other, money is created from the bottom up, by actual producers, and every single new credit is perfectly balanced by a new obligation. There's literally no way to print it out of thin air.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This sounds great, but what stops someone from just going on a spending spree, accepting invoices left and right, and running up a huge negative balance they can never repay? How do you prevent bad debt from crashing the whole system? Well, that's where the safety rules come in.
This right here is the golden rule. It's the absolute bedrock of the system's integrity. You simply cannot get a credit without, in that exact same moment, taking on a corresponding debt. They are two sides of the same coin created together. This unbreakable link is what guarantees the money supply is always tied to the real economy.
And it really boils down to this simple idea. Your ability to spend, to go into the red, is directly connected to your proven ability to produce value. It's not about how much you own, it's about what you can do. This simple principle is the foundation for a really fair and transparent way of setting credit limits.
Whoa, okay, don't let the formula on screen scare you. You do not need to be a math whiz here. The logic behind it is what's so cool. Your credit limit isn't just pulled out of a hat. It's calculated based on things like your proven track record of production, a time limit everyone agrees on, a safety buffer for the whole system, and, of course, your personal reliability score. It's all out in the open, all based on rules.
So, a system is only as good as its rules, right? But rules are only as good as the people who enforce and protect them. So the next big question is, how do you stop this new system from eventually being captured and corrupted, just like the one it's trying to replace?
The proposal lays out 4 key principles for honest governance. First, the core rules are incredibly hard to change. Second, all the important data is public. Third, decisions about credit aren't made by some central committee. They're handled by local groups like guilds or co-ops. And finally, the whole thing is decentralized, so no single person or group can take it over.
Now I get it. This all sounds really interesting, but it also feels a million miles away from the world we live in right now. So the final piece of this puzzle is probably the most important one. How could we ever get from here to there? Is there a realistic path forward?
Well, the idea isn't to just flip a switch overnight. It's much more of a gradual evolution. It would start out as a parallel system, running alongside the currencies we already use. You could choose to use it, or not. But as more people join because they like its stability, the network gets stronger. Over time, the reliance on the old system could just naturally fade away as more and more people gain confidence in the new one.
And check this out. This is a truly radical concept. In this new system, the government wouldn't be the special issuer of money anymore. It would be just another user, playing by the same rules as everyone else. If it wanted credit, it would have to make transparent promises to deliver public services, and its debt would be a totally open record of those promises.
This quote just brings it all home, doesn't it? It's the system's fundamental promise, all in one sentence. The supply of money is structurally, mathematically, and philosophically locked to the real, productive ability of the people using it. Issuance can't outrun output, period. Ultimately, when you strip away all the details, this entire proposal boils down to a fundamental choice. Do we want our money tied to the decisions of politicians and central bankers? Or do we want it tied directly to the real goods and services that we all create, trade, and depend on every single day?
And that leaves us with a huge question to chew on. If the money in our pockets was a direct, honest-to-goodness reflection of real, tangible value, how would that change things? How would it change the way we work, the way we save, the way we invest, and the way we build our communities? It's a pretty powerful idea to think about.